He signed the divorce papers, mocking me. Until the judge read my father's will out loud, I watched him smirk as if my heartbreak was his victory. The papers he handed me felt like a death sentence for my dreams. Every hope I had was shattered before I even stepped into the courtroom. Betrayal can arrive with a single signature, and I never imagined my father's words would be my only salvation. The weight of the envelope in my hands was crushing, yet it was heavier in my heart. How could the man I once trusted smile while signing away our life together as if it was a game? Struggling Stories channel intro. Hello, friends! Welcome to Struggling Stories. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to like this video and leave a comment. Here we bring you stories that shake your heart, make you think, and sometimes touch your very soul. So let's begin. The moment I stepped into the courtroom, a chill ran down my spine. The heavy doors closed behind me with a sound that echoed like the closing of fate itself. There he was, standing confidently with the papers in hand, the same mocking smile that had haunted my dreams for months. Every step I took felt heavier than the last, burdened by the weight of betrayal, disappointment, and the fear of what this day would bring. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the room itself was aware of the tension between us. "This is over," he said casually, his voice calm but laced with triumph. The walls seemed to close in around me. Every memory, every dream I had dared to hold on to seemed to vanish instantly. Yet I refused to show my fear. I squared my shoulders, took a deep breath, and silently told myself I would not break. I would not let him see my vulnerability. I had to remain strong, for myself and for the memory of my father, whose guidance had shaped me into someone stronger than I realized. As the judge called the session to order, the tension in the room became almost unbearable. Every eye was on us. Every whisper stopped. The silence pressed on me like a weight, reminding me of all the times I had felt powerless. How had it come to this? How had the man I once loved and trusted become someone capable of such cruelty? And yet, amidst the fear, a spark of determination ignited within me. I knew I could survive this, and I knew the truth was on my side. Then the judge spoke, and my father's name surfaced. My heart skipped a beat. My father, who had always been my protector, my guide, and my anchor, even in death, had prepared for this moment. I had never imagined that a single document, the final words of my father, would carry the power to protect me, to turn the tables, and to confront the arrogance of a man who thought he could crush me. The mere mention of his name shifted the energy in the room. The air seemed to vibrate with anticipation. The power dynamic, once so clearly in his favor, now felt uncertain. The judge slowly opened my father's will. The room seemed to hold its breath. Every word read aloud carried weight, revealing foresight, protection, and love that transcended even death. I could see the man's smug expression faltering. The first cracks in his confidence began to show. He realized, perhaps for the first time, that he could not control this narrative, that the power he believed he had was slipping away. My father's words were not merely instructions. They were a shield, a sword, and a declaration of justice that could not be silenced or ignored. As the clauses were read, I felt my confidence grow. Each sentence dismantled the arrogance he had carried into the courtroom. Each word revealed consequences for deceit and betrayal. The will accounted for manipulation, exposing the depth of his miscalculations. Every legal strategy he might have relied upon to humiliate me was neutralized. My father had anticipated every possible move, every attempt to undermine me, ensuring that truth would prevail over mockery. The atmosphere in the courtroom changed dramatically. Whispers spread, eyes widened, and the weight of realization settled over everyone present. He tried to maintain composure, to speak, to argue, but the clarity and precision of the will left no room for manipulation. Every action he took now only highlighted his vulnerability, his misjudgment, and the strength of the legacy he had underestimated. For months I had felt powerless, humiliated, and betrayed. But now, standing in that courtroom, I realized that my strength had been within me all along. My father's foresight, his love, and his wisdom had fortified me, arming me with a weapon stronger than any legal argument. Truth. I could feel the surge of empowerment grow within me. I had endured, I had suffered, but I was no longer the victim. I was prepared, and I was protected. The will detailed not only the division of assets, but also the moral and ethical dimensions of justice. It accounted for deceit, manipulation, and betrayal, specifying consequences for those who sought to take advantage of me. Every clause felt deliberate, precise, and protective. My father had left no room for error, no opportunity for exploitation. His words wrapped around me like armor, shielding me from the humiliation I had once feared would define my life. As the reading continued, the courtroom became almost surreal. The tension was tangible. Every person present seemed to sense the weight of the moment. His eyes shifted nervously, realizing that mockery and arrogance could not withstand the foresight and love enshrined in that document. For the first time, I saw him truly afraid. He understood that his power had been illusory, that his cruelty and confidence were powerless against the legacy of truth and protection my father had left behind. With every word, I felt the past months of anguish release from my chest. The shame, the fear, the hurt, they all began to dissolve. What had once felt like an insurmountable obstacle was now a revelation of strength, resilience, and empowerment. I was no longer defined by his mockery or his betrayal. I was defined by truth, integrity, and the enduring protection of a father's love. By the time the will was fully read, the courtroom had transformed. The man who had once held mockery like a weapon now sat exposed, powerless, and humbled. I, in contrast, stood tall, fortified by knowledge, truth, and foresight. My father's legacy had turned a moment of humiliation into a moment of triumph, proving that preparation, love, and justice always prevail over deceit and arrogance. I took a deep, steadying breath, feeling a clarity I had never known before. The weight of months of suffering lifted from my shoulders. I understood the profound lesson my father had imparted. Strength is not in dominance or cruelty, but in preparation, in resilience, and in the courage to face betrayal without fear. His words had been my shield, his foresight my sword, and his love my guiding force. As the judge continued to read my father's will, the courtroom felt as if it were holding its breath. Every word, every clause carried weight far beyond mere legal instruction. I could see the man who had mocked me so openly, trying desperately to maintain composure, but the cracks in his confidence were growing by the second. His arrogance, once so bold and unshakable, now faltered under the relentless clarity of the will. I realized that my father had anticipated everything, every betrayal, every lie, every attempt to undermine me. The air in the room was thick with tension, but strangely, I felt a calm wash over me. The same heart that had been shattered months ago now beat with renewed strength. I understood that I was no longer powerless. I had been armed with foresight, protection, and truth. Each word the judge read seemed to wrap around me like armor, shielding me from the humiliation I had endured and fortifying me against any attempt at manipulation. The man who had signed the divorce papers with mockery in his eyes now looked pale and unsettled. He tried to speak, to challenge, to assert dominance, but the will left no room for argument. Every clause dismantled his confidence, revealed his miscalculations, and neutralized the arrogance he had carried into the courtroom. For the first time, he realized that mockery and deceit could not withstand the meticulous planning, love, and foresight my father had provided. The judge's voice resonated through the room, deliberate and measured, emphasizing the gravity of each point. The will detailed assets, responsibilities, and legal protections, but it also contained moral clarity. My father had ensured that any attempt to deceive or manipulate would have immediate consequences. Each sentence reinforced my position and revealed the extent to which I had been underestimated. I watched as the man's smirk slowly disappeared, replaced by the dawning realization that he was facing consequences far beyond what he had imagined. I felt a surge of empowerment that I had never known before. For months, I had endured humiliation, betrayal, and the suffocating sense of helplessness. Now, I was witnessing the embodiment of justice, meticulously designed by the person who had always protected me. My father's foresight had turned the tables entirely. The man who had mocked me, confident in his victory, was now powerless in the face of the truth. The clauses of the will were methodical, precise, and unyielding. Each one accounted for possible deception, each one ensured protection, and each one reinforced the principle that justice and foresight surpass arrogance and cruelty. As the judge read, I could see the subtle panic growing in his eyes. He was realizing, perhaps for the first time, that his attempts to humiliate me had failed. The power he believed he held had been an illusion, and I, once a figure of ridicule, now stood as a testament to resilience and empowerment. I felt the weight of months of anxiety and heartbreak lift from my shoulders. Every memory of insult, every moment of betrayal, felt like it was being erased by the force of truth. I realized then that strength is not found in domination, but in preparation and the courage to endure. My father had given me more than protection. He had given me the ability to reclaim my dignity, to confront injustice, and to rise above the mockery and cruelty of others. The courtroom seemed almost suspended in time. Every person present was acutely aware of the shift in power dynamics. His body language betrayed uncertainty, his attempts at composure failing with every word the judge read. People whispered among themselves, their expressions a mixture of shock, awe, and disbelief. The man who had believed himself untouchable was now confronted with the undeniable force of truth. With each passing moment, I grew more certain of the justice being served. The will was not just a legal instrument. It was a declaration, a revelation, and a teaching. It emphasized integrity, foresight, and the consequences of deceit. My father had left a blueprint for justice, ensuring that no act of cruelty could go unchallenged. I felt a profound sense of gratitude, pride, and empowerment. He tried again, to assert control, to twist the situation in his favor, but every word he spoke only highlighted his vulnerability. The will had accounted for every scenario, every potential manipulation, leaving him with no recourse. I watched as the courtroom collectively recognized the transformation of the moment. What had begun as a potential humiliation for me had become a demonstration of foresight, justice, and the enduring strength of truth. The final clauses were read aloud, sealing the consequences of betrayal and confirming the protections afforded to me. The man who had mocked and belittled me now understood the full scope of the situation. Every attempt he had made to humiliate me had been anticipated and countered. I, in contrast, had been shielded, guided, and empowered by my father's meticulous planning. I realized then that true strength lies not in revenge but in foresight, integrity, and the courage to face betrayal without fear. I felt a wave of relief, followed by a surge of confidence. My father's will had not only protected me but had also revealed the depth of betrayal and ensured accountability. The courtroom, once a space of intimidation and fear, now seemed illuminated with the power of truth and justice. Every whisper, every glance, every reaction reinforced the undeniable lesson. Cruelty and arrogance cannot withstand preparation, foresight, and the enduring force of integrity. By the time the reading concluded, the man who had mocked me sat humbled, stripped of confidence and confronted by the reality of his actions. I, however, stood empowered, fortified by knowledge, truth, and the enduring protection my father had provided. The courtroom had witnessed a transformation, not just of legal power, but of personal strength, dignity, and the undeniable triumph of foresight over deceit. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension drain from my body. I had endured months of emotional turmoil, humiliation, and despair, but now I understood something profound: the power to overcome betrayal, to reclaim dignity, and to face any challenge lies within us, guided by truth, preparation, and integrity. My father's legacy had ensured that even in my darkest hour, I would find strength, justice, and empowerment. As I left the courtroom that day, I walked taller than I had in months. The man who had mocked me, once confident in his triumph, had learned a lesson he would never forget. I had learned a different lesson, one of resilience, foresight, and the enduring power of love and truth. That day marked not an ending, but a beginning of empowerment, of clarity, and of understanding that even in the face of mockery and betrayal, justice, integrity, and foresight will always prevail. Moral: the story concludes with a powerful reminder. The strength to rise above betrayal lies in preparation, truth, and the wisdom of those who protect us, even from beyond the grave. The man who mocked me was humbled, and I discovered the true meaning of resilience and empowerment.